Welcome to Satsang.
Can you please speak about the topic love and gratitude?
Love is real. What you think is not. So even words, in a way, don't have the same reality that true love has. Love is a mystery to me because it's here and it's always here. It's perceived, but it doesn't do anything else but love. Sometimes it's referred to the true jewel of consciousness. And it was because of this unconditional love that is here, that is real, that my whole life changed. Because there was a recognition that it was worthy, of pursuit. And that materialism and just the pursuit of happiness or escaping suffering didn't have the same worthiness. So I had to discover how to perceive more love because my mind really liked it. And through experimentation, I discovered that love was present when I, as an I, was absent. The less I, the more love. And I looked at that and I could see, well, the I is quite a defensive thing. It's quite a resistant thing. And all resistance and all defensiveness, all closure, block our view, block our perception of love. And so for a lot of years of my life, I didn't really perceive real love because I was too closed. And in discovering real love, unconditional love, I went in pursuit of more of it because I liked the sample I got. And in the pursuit, I took down all the defense systems and I opened up. And in that openness, the I started to diminish because the I itself is a form of closure. And the less story there was of Vishrant, the more love there was. Quite often people project onto love all sorts of things. They think somehow it talks to them. But love just loves. It doesn't talk. It's the mind that thinks and talks. And it's the mind that projects all these things onto love, thinking that somehow it can control love. But how can something that's not even real, that's imagined, actually control something that is real? Not really. All the mind can do is get out of the way enough so love can be perceived. And when love is perceived, when the mind is experiencing unconditional love, it just wants to take care of everyone and everything. It doesn't need rules anymore. It doesn't need morality anymore because it will do no harm. And this is one of the beautiful aspects of finding unconditional love in your life. It affects you in such a lovely way where you just want to take care, where you just want to support, where you'll do anything to help people out of their suffering if you can. You'll become God's fool using humour. to take people out of their seriousness so they can drop their defenses and find something of beauty. The path of love is the path of least resistance. And so when we look at that, we go, well, how much resistance do we put into life? How much do we defend ourselves? How closed are we? And in seeing, we can start to open up. We can start to drop our defenses. We can start walking through the world vulnerable instead of defended, instead of closed. And in that vulnerability, love is perceived. The beauty is perceived. But it does change your life. It changes your life so dramatically. I have a story about it, which is interesting, because it did change my life dramatically. This is a long time ago, back in 1987. I had taken a small boat with my girlfriend on over to the Abrolhos Islands, which are about 35 miles off the west coast of Australia. And I hadn't checked the weather. And it was a very small boat. It was only about 15 foot with a high-powered motor on it. And as I took off, the weather started to change, but I didn't pay enough attention. And within half an hour, the cyclone had hit. And the islands at their highest point are only 10 foot high. And so I went straight through them and missed them. Ended up 60 miles off the coast in this runabout in the middle of the edge of a cyclone. On the way through somewhere, we hit something in the water, maybe a bottle or something, and it holed the first hull. And so at 60 miles out, the boat started to sink, and it sunk. It went down below gunwale level. And we had a radio attached to the roof, fortunately, with batteries, and we were able to talk to people. But we were in the water. And it didn't look good because we were being circled by sharks for 18 hours. And I thought at that time that I wouldn't survive and that my partner would die as well, probably from being mauled by sharks. But at some point, I looked across to her, and this unconditional love that was non-directional just appeared. And it was so beautiful. It was so special. And I realized that everything that I had, that I'd earned up to that age, I was 33, I think, was worthless except this love, except this beauty. And back in Perth, down south, I had been a successful publisher. I drove a Rolls Royce. I had houses, properties, a thriving business, but none of it was worth anything in that moment. The only thing that was worth anything was love. And I valued it. Within 9 months of that experience, I decided to give away business and to pursue heart, to pursue the pursuit of love, because I realized that for 33 years, I basically selfishly lived my life for me, and it was a waste. Because the only thing that's valuable on this plane is love. And so I walked into my publishing company and I gave the company to my staff because I didn't want to see them put out by me selling it. So I gave them my company and I left the business world and basically hitchhiked around Australia for the next 4 years looking for my heart. So it took me a while to work out where it was and what it was. I didn't realize that I couldn't find it while I was defended, while I was closed, while I was resisting life. I didn't realize at that stage. It took a fair bit of looking to see that when I was really vulnerable, when I was really open, there love was. And it was always here. It was just out of perception if I was closed, if I was defended, if I was resisting life, because my awareness would be on that, be blocked by those filters. And so in finding heart, I discovered what I wanted to do with my life also. I didn't want to be a businessman anymore, but I did want to be in service to humans, because when the heart affects the mind, you just want to help people. So I went back to school and I trained as a naturopath and I trained as a psychotherapist so I could have some tools to help people with. It was so rewarding to love, to truly, truly love without anything, to experience the magnificence of unconditional love. And so I teach the way of the heart because I know what it's worth. It's worth everything. But it's up to you to take down your defenses. It's up to you to stop resisting life. It's up to you to open up because it's always here. Any questions? Any statements? Any challenges to this teaching today?
The first question is as follows. Is it true that everything is love?
Well, I don't know. It could be. I have experienced everything as love many, many, many times, but I don't know if it's true. I find that the best answer for most questions like that is I don't know, because like everybody else, I have a limited mind and existence is so big. So asking is everything love? I just don't know. I know that love is real. I know that love is the true jewel of consciousness. And I know that if you find love in your life, you have a beautiful life.
The next question is from Julia on Facebook, who asks, what does resisting life look like? What are you doing that tells you that you are resisting life?
Okay, yeah. Anytime that we're running a no that is backed by any form of closure, we're in resistance. And so when we have a yes to life, when we're open, when we're vulnerable, when there's nothing happening inside us, we're wide open, there's no resistance. But any time that we've taken offense, we've turned ourselves into a victim of something, we've got a strong no running or even a mild no running, we're in resistance. But we don't need to be. We can undo all of those defenses, all of those practices, and be open. But that's up to you. And quite often, if we're closed or we're in resistance, the body somewhere is holding tightness because the body follows the mind. And so the tells sometimes are in how our body is reacting. If we're tight in the jaw, we're probably closed. If we're shallow breathing, we're probably closed. If there's any tightness in us that's being supported, we're probably resisting. And so you have to look, you have to become a witness to your own mind and a witness to your own body to see what it's doing. Only you can really tell. It's up to you.
The next question is from a viewer. When you say love makes you take care of others, is worrying a form of care?
It can be deemed that way, but worrying itself is a form of closure which cuts you off from love. It's a filter that we put on that actually is in resistance to what is, because we're fearful of something happening. And in that resistance, we actually cut ourselves off from love. It might be love that motivates us in the first place to worry, but once we start worrying, we're in resistance. The perception of love, the true perception of love, has probably disappeared. Love really does appear in openness. Closure tends to cut us off from perceiving it. And worrying is a form of closure.
Is there a clear indicator or way to tell when I'm really experiencing love, or if I'm just telling myself that I'm loving?
Look, if you truly experience unconditional love, you'll know. There won't be a, I'm not sure. You'll know. It is beautiful. It's sometimes it's subtle, but it's beautiful. You find you just want to take care. You find that you're happy for no reason. You become gentler. You become more humble. You become more sweet. Once again, it comes back to you witnessing what's happening in you. You watching your mind, you watching your body, and see what's happening. Rather than just getting caught in analyzing and guessing, which is another dream, just witness the mind. See what it's really doing. See how you're really feeling. That's the shot.
The following question is from a viewer. How does unconditional love compare to the experience of things like MDMA?
MDMA, ecstasy, a drug that effectively can knock the ego out temporarily, overwhelm it because it's an amphetamine-based drug, can have people experiencing love. Sometimes in the early days it was called the love drug. And it was because the amount of amphetamine that has been taken, or MDMA, that's been taken, knocks the ego out, knocks the defenses out, knocks everything out. So you then perceive love. That works temporarily, but then the mind comes back with a vengeance afterwards to defend itself because it doesn't like being knocked out. If you really want to find unconditional love without taking drugs, you have to learn to let go. You have to learn to open up. You have to learn to accept life. All the drug does is open you up because you're closed. Find the things that are keeping you closed and remove them. And then that beautiful experience of love that you may find very temporarily on ecstasy is there all the time. Anything that forces the mind open is going to get a reaction from the mind. So maybe people experience a little bit of love on the first few trips of ecstasy, MDMA, but after a while the mind has defended itself against being knocked out, because after all it is a survival mechanism. But you can teach the mind to let go. You can teach the mind to be undefended. You can teach the mind to open up. And if you do, you are putting yourself in the right position to experience unconditional love.
The next question's from a viewer. I've heard it said that you can't love another until you first love yourself. What is your perspective on this?
That's an idea, not a reality. If you're out of the picture, love is there, you know. If you're out of the picture, no, whatever takes you out of the picture. If you're undefended, if you're open, love can be there and you can perceive it. And so, as far as loving yourself's concerned, unless you're in full acceptance of yourself, it is relatively difficult to love yourself, because there's a part of your mind that is at odds with another part of your mind. There's a little disjointedness inside your own mind, part judging another part and holding it in contempt in some way. And so when we look at the type of things that create resistance in ourselves, which stop us from perceiving love, not accepting ourselves, which creates low self-worth, is one of the main things. And so it's important for the seeker to find a way to accept themselves as they are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to hold themselves in tenderness. And in that, love can be perceived. And as you become more loving with yourself, as a result of being more accepting of yourself, you start to overflow. And so you become an oasis of love for others. And this is beautiful. You become the heart of gold that you've been looking for. But that's up to you. The more defended you are, the more closed you are, the more resistant you are, the more difficult that's going to be. Up to you. Always up to you.
The next question has been asked by a viewer. I often watch my mind contracting when people close to me don't have the same world views, for example, about abortion. But I still love and serve them where I can, although with some reservation and holding back. How do I just let it be in love?
Well, you're talking about having points of view, you're talking about having opinions that are keeping you separate from others. Drop the opinions, drop the judgments, and just be open. And then you'll find that you love everybody. As long as you have opinions and judgments that you support strongly, that level of prejudice is a form of resistance, and it will stop you from perceiving love. It's up to you. You're creating it. Nobody's doing it to you. You create your reality by the way you think. And you can change that if you like, because you're in charge.
You say that love affects the mind by wanting to take care. Does love also have a feeling in the body?
It may do. I can only talk from the experience that I have with love. And just love is everywhere. So it's not in the body, it's everywhere. It's not directional. It's omnipresent. It's everywhere. And so to say it's in the body, that would be too difficult for me. It's everywhere. Hmm.
How can I discern if I'm experiencing love or attachment to my partner?
See, let them go and see. Allow them to leave and see. Allow yourself to be alone and see. See what's holding you. See what's really there. Love doesn't take prisoners, ever. The mind does, because it wants to feel secure. So the mind takes prisoners, but love never does.
The next question is from a viewer. So, love is not an emotional body sensation, so are other feelings everywhere too?
Love is not an emotion. Love is real. People can get emotional, which is a part of the mind, when they experience love, but love itself is not an emotion. It just is. And it's very, very beautiful. And the mind perceives it as such. It is the mind that gets emotional. It's the mind that thinks. But the mind isn't that real. If you take away imagination, there is no mind. But love, on the other hand, is real. It is here. It is not imagined. It's so beautiful. Or just get out of the way enough to feel it. Sometimes people, when they come in touch with a newborn baby, they feel that love because they're totally undefended in the presence of the baby. They're totally open. And in that openness, they experience love. This is the way to live. This is the way of the heart. This is the true rebellion, if you like, because this goes against the mind's survival mechanism. This sets you free from that. And the way of the heart demands, in a lot of ways, that you abandon a lot of what you think. You abandon the things that contract you. You abandon your defense systems. You abandon anything that causes resistance in yourself. This is a rebellion against your own mind for the heart. This is the true rebellion.
If you practice gratitude, does the practice of being loving naturally follow?
No, not necessarily. You can practice gratitude and still be closed, unfortunately. If you practice gratitude and you're open, yeah, I'd say that you probably perceive love. But gratitude can be practiced from a closed space. And so gratitude has the potential to open you up, but it's not the only thing that's required. You actually have to watch your mind and see what it is that keeps you closed, what defenses might be in play. And a lot of those may be unconscious, so you have to look very closely. You have to watch your mind and see what it's doing. It's up to you.
The next question is from a viewer. If I'm rebelling against mind and emotions are part of mind, am I rebelling against my emotions?
You're not rebelling against your emotions. You're just seeking that is real. Emotions, they come and go, same as thoughts come and go. If you're open enough, you notice that love is here always. It doesn't come and go. Only you close off or you shut off in some way, defend yourself in some way to not perceive it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with emotions or the mind for that matter. I'm just saying if you really want to perceive love, find a way to be open. Find a way to be undefended.
Next, we have Satya, who would like to ask a question.
Hi, Satya.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
Vishrant, I'd like to ask you a question about when you are in love with particular characters, uh, yeah, like boyfriend or girlfriend. But uh, in that moment, how you can keep aware yourself? And so, when you are in love, is it like a dream, or we have to be aware in that position? Or can you just guide me through, please?
Well, in love's a funny expression. In love with someone. Love is there, and you can experience love and then blame someone else for it and say, I love you. But really, if you have a look, love is real and the I is not. It's just imagined. So when we look at loving people, a lot of what we call love is actually not love. It's bonding, which happens chemically and out of need, out of insecurities. And we quite often call that love. It's more need than love. Love can be there, but not necessarily. True love doesn't want anything in return, ever. It doesn't take prisoners. It just is. The primal bonding that we get when we mate with someone or we're attached to them in some way is a little different. And to be able to tell the difference, you have to start witnessing your own mind and see what it's really up to. One thing about love is it's never, ever, ever gets attached to anything. It just is. It just loves. If there's attachment there, there's something else there. So you have a look and see. What is it that's really there? Is it absolutely pure love, or is there something else going on?
Okay, thank you, Vishrant.
The next question is from Kalimba.
Hi, Kalimba.
Hi, Vishrant. Have I unmuted myself properly?
You have indeed.
Look, when you were talking about loving babies, that really resonated with me. And a recent experience, a friend of mine who's in his late 40s came to the door and he had this beautiful little baby in his arms. And as I was looking at the baby, he said, I wish I had a camera to photograph every time somebody looks at the baby and goes like that.
Uh-huh.
Now, Heather and I, we're just sooky googly over babies and young kids and animals. We just love them. But why is it so easy to love them and yet so difficult to love politicians and people like Donald Trump and people who do horrible things?
But it's simple because babies are harmless. The same as puppies are harmless, the same as kittens are harmless. We don't defend ourselves when we're near them. And so we perceive, because we're not defended, we perceive love. The moment we're with an adult human being or a child that's a little bit older than a year, a certain level of defensiveness comes up because humans are dangerous. And in that defensiveness, we don't perceive the love because we're actually closed and we don't even know it.
Yeah, it's, as I said, I can hear what you're saying, and it resonates with me because when I'm with, as I said, babies or young kids, for me it's like 2-year-olds are also really beautiful, and yet I sort of contract. One of the reasons I don't watch TV and I don't read newspapers is you see all the negative stuff that's going on and the people that are harming other people. But I remember, I think it was the Dalai Lama once said, it's okay to hate the sin, but try to love the sinner. But why do I find that so difficult?
Yeah. Well, it's if you take away your defense systems, you can love everybody. The only reason you can't love people is because you've got something against them. You're holding a defense system. You're holding something in resistance to them. If you drop all resistance, which quite often happens when people used to take massive doses of ecstasy, you love everybody and everything. But that's because all the defenses, all the resistances have been removed, and there love is, you know? People thought that ecstasy created the love. Ecstasy never created love. Amphetamine never created love. Love is always here. It's just not being perceived because we're closed, because that's part of our survival mechanism, to be closed, to be resistant. And so the way of the heart is against nature in some ways, because it means we have to be open and vulnerable, which is against survival.
Yeah, again, I can totally understand with what you say, and it resonates. It's, I guess the thing for me is I've gotten into such a habit of being judgmental, including of myself, that I find it difficult. But look, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to really keep trying to work on it.
You know, Kalimba, I love you.
I know, and I love you too, Vishrant. But it's easier to love you than Donald Trump.
Uh, you know, I love Donald Trump. I don't agree with some of the things he does or says, but I love him. He's just another part of me, the same as you are.
Yeah, we've got to love everybody, warts and all, haven't we?
Pretty much. Otherwise, we live in a closed, cut-off world, and that's not happy. That's miserable.
Yeah, true. Living in the ego is really miserable.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Nice to talk to you, Kalimba.
And you, Vish.
Hmm.
The next question is from Diane.
Hi, Diane.
Hi. Good to be here.
Nice to see you.
Well, I can see you.
Ah, I can see a photograph of you, Diane.
Hope it's one of my better ones.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just when Kalimba was speaking then, and you were responding, like, we have to, it's good to love everybody, and you said pretty much. It sounded like there might be times when it's okay. I guess I'm talking more maybe about acceptance of how somebody is. Is acceptance and love pretty much the same thing?
No, acceptance is what the mind does. Love is independent of the mind. Love is real. Acceptance is still part of the mind. But a mind that is in acceptance is likely to perceive love. A mind that is in non-acceptance is not likely to perceive love.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And one other thing, go on.
No, go ahead.
One other thing you said earlier was that you don't, I think this is what you said, that you don't feel love in the body necessarily. I tend to. I tend to have like a real resonation when I touch that, when I let go of everything else and just be and just love.
Mm.
So it is kind of visceral as well. It is a full feeling of
For you,
nothing.
for you, yes. Mm. I just, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tend to my awareness tends to be located everywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And
I can't put a place or pin a place where awareness is. It's everywhere.
right. Yeah. Thank you.
Nice to talk to you, Diane.
Ah, yes, so good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is as follows from a viewer. Is love like an experiencing of the Buddha field?
I mean, you can experience love in a Buddha field, but a Buddha field is created by awareness being aware of itself, or consciousness being aware of itself in a human being. And then there's the Buddha field, and that is the true Buddha, the Buddha field. And love can appear in that, but not necessarily. So once again, we start entering the mystery of it all. The Buddha field is beautiful, and love can be in it, but not necessarily.
When you said earlier, in reference to Donald Trump, that he is just another part of you, how do you come to experience this in the moment when seeing all the negative things he has done?
Yeah. You have to be awake. You have to be enlightened. And that's not, the funny thing about that is it's not you that becomes enlightened. It's not the mind that becomes enlightened. It's not the ego that becomes enlightened. That's aware of your mind discovers itself and becomes aware of itself. Pure consciousness becomes aware of itself, which is non-personal. And in that awareness of self, there is the mind knowing that everything is one, that there is no such thing as duality at all. We are all one. And so Donald Trump or anyone else or anything else is just another part of us. And that's not held as a concept. It's held as a direct knowing from the direct experiencing of it in the moment.
The next question is as follows. When I'm stressed about something not going how I want, how can I see that I'm lucky to have this present moment and be grateful for what I have?
Don't give yourself a choice. We have choices to go negative on something or positive on something, or not get involved at all. We have choices. Life is just the way it is. We don't have to see it as good or bad. We can just, this is what is. And if we can say this is just what is, we don't need to go into story either, because the moment we accept life as it is, story disappears, drama disappears, and this is quite beautiful. It's up to you though. How does your mind work? Why does it work? What is it doing? By witnessing the mind, we get to see that. And as we witness the mind more and more and see how it's operating, there's certain things we just don't get involved in anymore because they're detrimental. Life is just the way it is.
The next question is from a viewer. Can you talk about concentration? Concentration is one of the keys of mindfulness. You said your awareness is everywhere, but concentration seems like a narrower.
Concentration is required for someone who's not practiced at mindfulness. Mindfulness means being present to what is real. Someone who's practiced at that has a default pattern of being present to what is real. The only thing that is not real is what you think. But someone who's practiced is not trying, is not concentrating. It is a default pattern. They can be absolutely relaxed and still mindful of everything that's happening around them. And this is a result of practice. But in the beginning, because we all went to school and learnt to live in our heads, mindfulness practice takes a certain level of effort of bringing awareness back to what is real and away from the dream, which is thinking. And so in the beginning, there is a certain level of concentration that is required. But with practice, a bit like learning to ride a bike, after a while you don't think about it, you don't concentrate on it, it just happens by itself because you are practiced. The same goes with mindfulness training.
Did gratitude arise in you spontaneously, or did you actively practice it?
No, it arose spontaneously. I first noticed it to a level where it was bringing tears to my eyes when I thought about my spiritual master and teacher, Osho Rajneesh. I was so overwhelmed with gratitude for what he had shown me. Love just appeared. It was so beautiful. But it wasn't something I practiced. It was something that just arose spontaneously.
Is love something that can be taught?
Well, you can teach a person to get out of the way. You can teach a person to open up. You can teach a person to stop resisting life. When I say teach, you can offer them teaching. They're the ones that have to open up. They're the ones that have to drop their defense systems. And so it's possible for someone to experience love if they're willing to open up. As far as teaching them's concerned, it's a bit like you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. It's up to the individual. The whole journey to higher consciousness, the whole perception of love is up to you. You're the only one that can make it so. Nobody can do it for you. No teacher can do it for you, not really. You have to do it. You have to undo your defense systems. You have to drop your resistances. You have to see through your mind and let things go. Only you can do that.
The next question, is heart awakening related in any way to the awakening to truth?
In this way it is. For the heart to awaken, there needs to be a surrender on the part of the mind. And for enlightenment to occur, there needs to be a surrender on the part of the mind, And so surrender, or unconditional surrender, is the key to both. And we learn surrender by the practice of acceptance and the practice of let go. And if we practice acceptance and let go enough, we master surrender. So in that way, there is a connection between enlightenment and awakening of the heart, in that they both demand unconditional surrender.
Do you think that having a daily gratitude practice can help stop negative thinking?
It may do. I don't know. I've never tried it. It may do. I don't know. I'm not big on giving anybody anything more to think about. And when we start practicing gratitude, we're thinking about more things. I see the mind as something that is best let go of and be present to what is real. That's what I think. That's called meditation. Sometimes it's called mindfulness training. But I know that works.
I'm scared to open up and truly, truly love other people. How can I overcome my fear of being hurt?
Yeah, right. Well, if you open up, you will be hurt because That's what happens. That's one of the prices for a serving heart. There is a willingness to be hurt. There's a willingness to be open. And there's a willingness to be vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, yeah, we can get hurt. But that's part of the deal. And if you're not willing to comply, if you don't want to open up, if you don't want to feel something, well, you're creating your reality through that closure. It's up to you. You say you're frightened. Yeah, of course it's frightening. It's frightening to be hurt by others. But if we want to serve hard, if we want to experience love, we have to be willing. We have to be willing to feel. Otherwise, the closures that we use to protect ourselves from feeling get in the way of us perceiving love. Once again, it's up to you. No one can make you do it. It's up to you.
The next question is from a viewer. How did you become okay with feeling other people's emotional pain? Are you still in ecstasy or love while feeling this pain?
It is the strangest thing in the world, but when other people's pain comes into me as an energy form, and it usually does if I'm with humans, because of the unconditional surrender here, it turns into ecstasy. It turns into bliss. And so when I'm in the presence of somebody that's pouring their pain into me, I'm blissed out. I do feel the pain, but there is no resistance to it whatsoever. And in that non-resistance, in that unconditional surrender, there is such a nectar. There is so much bliss.
The next question. I'm in non-acceptance of my partner not finding a job. Can love be a tool to help me drop my resistance?
Turning love into a tool, I wouldn't do that. Love is just love. It's very beautiful. The reason you don't accept is because of your mind doesn't want to accept, because it wants something, so it doesn't want to accept what is. If you really want to accept, you accept. Trying to think of using love as a tool is a bit, I don't think so. I don't think so. Find out what it is you're not willing to feel, and you'll find the answer. There's something there that you're not willing to feel. Your non-acceptance of what is there because you don't want to feel something. Find out what it is you want to feel, don't want to feel, and be okay with that, and see where that takes you.
Next question is from a viewer. Is gratitude just a high degree of acceptance?
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. Gratitude is beautiful. See, a high degree of acceptance is actually surrender. And surrender is a non-doing. In gratitude, there's still a doing of some kind. And so I don't really know. When we learn enough about acceptance, when we practice it enough, when we practice enough let go, we find surrender. But surrender is a non-doing. So things could happen. They may not be savory, they may not be good, but there's no reaction to it. This is a surrendered mind. Gratitude is still a doing, where there's someone that is grateful for something. In unconditional surrender, there's actually an absence of the I. There's an absence of the why, the one that would have gratitude. That's a little bit hard to understand, but it's true. Unconditional surrender, there is no I. It's over.
The next question is from a viewer. How can you accept a being such as Hitler?
Easy. He's part of me. How can I not accept part of me? We all have the good, the bad, and the ugly in us, all of us, as far as the psyche of the human is concerned. If you know yourself as truth, you know yourself as everything and everyone. How can you not accept yourself? How can you be your own enemy? How can you not be your own friend? It may be that you don't agree with parts of yourself, but you accept them anyway. You hold them in tenderness anyway. Because everything is one. If you only look at it from the perspective of the ego, though, you see the world as separate from you. You live in the world of duality, and so you think some are good and some are bad, because that's the perspective from being an ego, which is separate. But from the perception of reality, there is no two, there is only one totality. And in that totality, you perceive perfection upon perfection upon perfection, no matter what. But that can't be understood. It can be known, but it can't be understood. Go for enlightenment. Find yourself as truth, and find this to be true for yourself. I don't want anyone to ever believe anything I'm saying. I want you to find out for yourself. Go for it yourself. Find out what's true for yourself. But you won't find that much that's true inside the mind. You've got to go beyond the mind. You've got to find yourself as pure awareness. And then you'll see.
The next question. You feel other people's emotional pain. Do you also feel people's physical pain?
Sometimes. Sometimes I feel their physical pain. Sometimes I feel their headaches. One of the reasons that I do what I do is because this plane that we live on as human beings tends to be, for human beings at least, a plane of suffering. People are in resistance to life and they suffer a great deal. But we don't need to. We can actually climb above it and know ourselves as truth, and then be a light so others can see. And so my endeavour is to help people find themselves as truth, so they can be lights so others can see in this realm of suffering. Become a bodhisattva. That's best. Thank you for Satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here today.